Hello, my name is Chibe here, and I will be talking about Oscar Wilde and his social influence and impact on literature. He was born as Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde. He was born on October 16, 1854, in Dublin, Ireland. Wilde showed talent for writing and languages at an early age. He studied classics at the Trinity College in Dublin and later attended the Magdalen College in Oxford on scholarship. He later married Constance Lloyd in 1884 and had two sons, Cyril and Vivian. However, Wilde's affair with Lord Alfred Douglas began in 1891 and eventually his marriage broke down. After graduation in 1878, he moved to London and established himself as a writer and a spokesperson for the aesthetic movement. He was influenced by the aesthetic theories of John Ruskin and Walter Pater. His works reflect a focus on elegance, style, and pleasure. As Wilde states in his preface of his novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these there is hope. They are the elect to whom beautiful things mean only beauty. The aesthetic movement is an artistic movement that emphasized the pursuit of beauty in art for art's sake. It challenged the Victorian values of morality and utilitarianism in art, but promoted beauty in art as well as fashion, decor, and everyday objects. Wilde's works include poems, essays, critiques, plays, and one single novel. Some of his better known poetry include Ravenna, which is Wilde's reflections on the city of Ravenna after his short visit. It is a long poem which won the Newdigate Prize. There is also a collection of Wilde's early poetry called Poems, and the Ballad of Reading Gaol, which he wrote while he was serving his sentence. It protested the poor treatment of prisoners in England. Oscar Wilde's only novel is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Initially received It initially received negative responses due to homoerotic overtones. It is a story of ambiguous and moral corruption, where a magical portrait of a beautiful young man takes on the ugly rottenness of Dorian Gray's inner corruption. Among Oscar Wilde's essays and letters, there's Decay of Lying, which is an essay criticizing realism, with the emphasis that life imitates art and not the other way around. And there's also De Profundis, a letter written to Lord Alfred Douglas while Wilde was incarcerated, and it was published a few years after his release in 1905. It basically chronicled his life, his relationship with Douglas, and the solace he found in religion. Among his list of plays, there are a few that are more notable. The first is Lady Windermere's Fan. It's a critique of high society's hypocrisy, where appearances and where appearances are more important and broken morals are hidden behind a facade of respectability. The second is A Woman of No Importance, which is a satire of English society where sexism is alive and well. And the third, Salome, is a tale of sexual temptation brought on by an idealized female form and the seduction of dance, and the need to resist both. The moral is that succumbing to such temptations will basically bring about your downfall. The fourth is an ideal husband. It's about moral hypocrisy of Victorian aristocrats, where where the public persona of virtue doesn't necessarily mean the same in reality. And there's also the importance of being earnest. It's a satiric play of Victorian society where two young men adopt alter egos named Ernest to pursue their love interest. It touches on the era's placement of importance on social class and names, delivered with Wilde's usual wit. Oscar Wilde's literary style incorporated his sharp wit and irony in his writing. The resulting humor in his works was the tool that challenged pre existing notions and perhaps initiate change in how we view society. Wilde railed against the stifling oppressive Victorian moralism and promoted individuals' freedoms. Gillian Davis writes Wilde's characters, from Dorian Gray to Lady Bracknell, are not just figments of imagination, they are mirrors reflecting society's virtues and vices. Wilde's characters portrayed a depth that went beyond mere copies of people, by living, breathing embodiments of human nature. He was able to parse complex ideas into simple words that were easier to understand without losing its profound impact. Wilde's influence on modern literature. There is no such thing as moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all. This is a piece from the preface of the book, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Emphasis on style and individualism of aestheticism influenced modernist and postmodernist writers. Wilde's famous quote, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken," serves to reiterate the importance of bringing your own voice into the written word. Gillian Davis writes, Wilde's characters, from Dorian Gray to Lady Bracknell, are not just figments of imagination. They are mirrors reflecting society's virtues and vices. Wilde rejected traditional narratives and embraced artistic beauty, resulting in works that pushed the boundaries of social norms of his time. Wilde's life and writings both challenged what was socially acceptable, trending politics, and general social discourse. These are themes that are still relevant today. Wilde's running with the law. Wilde is celebrated not just for his literary works, but also for challenging social norms. He was openly gay in a period where such lifestyle was still outlawed. His affair with Alfred Douglas, son of the ninth Marquess of Queensberry, eventually became his downfall. In 1895, Queensberry accused Wilde of posing as a sodomite. Wilde countersued for libel. In the trial, Wilde versus Queensberry, evidence of Wilde's dealings with male prostitutes, transvestites, homosexual brothels were brought to public attention. This eventually ruined his reputation, and he dropped his suit but ended up paying Queensberry's legal fees, which bankrupted his family. As a result, Wilde was arrested, tried for gross indecency, and found guilty. His wife took the children and left, changing their last names to her maiden name, and the family home was taken to pay for legal fees. Wilde spent the 2 year sentence in Reading Gaol, where he wrote De Profundis and the Ballad of Reading Gaol. After his prison release, he was destitute and in poor health, and he made the final move to Paris, where he died on November 30, 1900. Wilde's place in pop culture. Wilde's works have been adapted into films, TV shows, and stage productions, and his life story has become the fodder for various biographies and fiction. Deeper impact, perhaps, of Wilde's writings are how we view critical essays and writings. Nicholas Frankl, an English professor at Virginia Commonwealth University, stated in an interview that there was no topic that he, meaning Wilde, was afraid to take on. Frankl described Wilde's critical writings to have broadened the scope of criticism and made it more truly popular in ways that we perhaps now take for granted in an era of podcasts, celebrity columnists, and 24-hour commentary. He also commented that should Wilde be alive today, in modern times, he'd be a New Yorker critic or a late night TV host. And I don't know how he came up with that. I could see him being a New Yorker critic, though. Oscar Wilde's social influence. Kate O'Connor writes in her article The Importance of Being Wild. One of the most fascinating things about Wilde is that he has been seized posthumously as a political symbol. Perhaps O'Connor is right in naming Wilde as the most famous victim of homosexuality as a crime. Wilde was like the poster child for 20th century sexual freedom movement, especially once homosexuality became decriminalized with the Sexual Offenses Act of 1967. Gillian Davis also states in her article Oscar Wilde's Written Wisdom. Wilde's life and works offer a cautionary tale about the dangers of societal hypocrisy and the suppression of individual expression, lessons that are particularly relevant in our times. This is true of present day society's cancel culture that attacks expressions of unpopular opinions. Imagine Wilde in the modern times. His criticism of social discourse would most likely get him cancelled. His push for aesthetics, individuality, and questioning of the establishment would garner him spokesfigure status similar to how he was held in regards to sexual identity and freedom movement.